After lunch, we all went up to the deck. Before us stretched the Mediterranean Sea, its surface shimmering like moire under the light of a full, tranquil moon, without the slightest ripple. The massive steamship glided over the mirror-like water, trailing a long plume of black smoke into the star-strewn sky. Behind us, the sea, pure white, churned by the swift passage of the heavy vessel and stirred by its propeller, foamed and twisted, glittering so intensely that it could have been mistaken for boiling moonlight. There were 6 of us, perhaps 8. We stood in silence, gazing toward the distant shores of Africa, our destination. The captain, puffing on a cigar, suddenly resumed a conversation that had begun over lunch. Yes, that day I truly knew fear. My ship was pinned against a rock for 6 hours, the reef driven deep into its belly. Luckily, just before nightfall, an English coal freighter spotted us and came to our rescue. For the first time, a tall, sun-darkened man with a stern face joined the conversation. One of those who had clearly roamed through vast, perilous lands, whose calm eyes seemed to reflect the memory of extraordinary natural scenes. He had the air of a man tempered by courage. "You say you felt fear, Captain. I don't believe it. You're mistaken in your definition and in the feeling itself. A man of action does not feel fear in the face of inevitable danger. He may be agitated, excited, alarmed, but fear is something else entirely." The captain laughed. "Damn it, I assure you what I felt was fear." The man with the bronze face replied slowly, "Allow me to explain. Fear, even the bravest may feel it, is something monstrous, a collapse of the soul, a wild convulsion of thought and heart, the mere memory of which evokes a bleak shudder. But a truly brave man does not feel this before an attack, nor before death, nor in the face of any known danger. It arises in strange circumstances, under mysterious influences, in the presence of vague, undefined threats. True fear is like a distant echo of the spectral horrors of our ancient past. A man who believes in ghosts and sees one in the night will know fear in all its boundless, nightmarish grotesqueness. I first encountered fear in broad daylight 10 years ago, and I felt it again last winter on a December night. Yet I've faced countless dangers and near-death experiences. I've fought in battles. I've been left for dead by bandits. In America, I was sentenced to hang as an insurgent. I was thrown into the sea from a ship's deck off the coast of China. Each time I believed I was doomed, I accepted it calmly, without tears, without regret. But fear, that's something else. I came to know it in Africa. Though fear is a child of the north, the sun scatters it like mist. Mark my words, gentlemen. Among Eastern peoples, life is held cheap. Death is accepted without resistance. Their nights are bright, unburdened by legends, and their souls are free from the grim anxieties that haunt men in colder lands. In the East, one may feel panic, but fear is unknown. Now, let me tell you what happened to me once in Africa. I was crossing the sandhills south of Orgla. It is one of the most astonishing regions on Earth, where endless sand stretches like the boundless shores of an ocean. Imagine an ocean turned to sand in the moment of a hurricane. Picture a silent storm with motionless waves of yellow dust. These waves rise like mountains, uneven and varied. They swell like furious breakers, but even taller, and seem etched with moire-like ripples. The southern, merciless sun pours its vertical rays onto this raging, silent, unmoving sea. One must climb these dunes of golden powder, descend, and climb again, endlessly without rest, without shade. The horses snort, sink to their knees, and slide as they descend the slopes of these astonishing hills. There were two of us, my companion and I, accompanied by 8 spahis and 4 camels with their handlers. No one spoke. We were crushed by the heat, weariness, and thirst that had dried us out like the scorched desert itself. Suddenly, someone cried out. Everyone stopped, and we froze, seized by a strange phenomenon known to those who travel through these forgotten lands. Somewhere nearby, from no clear direction, a sound began to rise, a drumbeat, the mysterious drum of the dunes. It rang out distinctly, sometimes louder, sometimes fading, pausing now and then, only to resume its eerie, fragmented rhythm. The Arabs exchanged frightened glances, and one of them murmured in his dialect, "Death walks among us." And then, without warning, my companion, my friend, almost a brother, collapsed forward off his horse, struck down by the sun. For 2 hours I tried in vain to revive him. All the while, that elusive drumbeat continued, filling my ears with its monotonous, intermittent, incomprehensible rhythm. I felt, in that blazing pit of sand, surrounded by 4 walls of heat, beside the lifeless body of someone dear to me, the creeping chill of fear, true, repulsive fear. And the unknown echo kept reaching us. Though we were 200 leagues from the nearest French village, its steady beat pulsing through the silence. That day I understood what fear truly is. But I came to know it even more deeply later. The captain interrupted the storyteller. "Excuse me, sir, but what was that drum? What did it mean?" The traveler replied, "I don't know. No one does. Officers who've encountered this strange sound usually believe it to be an echo, amplified, multiplied by the undulating dunes, by the hail of sand grains carried by the wind and striking against clumps of dry grass. It's been observed that this phenomenon often occurs near low vegetation, scorched by the sun and stiff as parchment. That drum, then, is nothing more than a sonic mirage. That's all. But I learned this only later. Now let me tell you about the second time. It was last winter in one of the forests of northeastern France. Night fell 2 hours earlier than usual. The sky was black as coal. My guide was a peasant, walking beside me along a narrow path beneath a canopy of pines, where the wind howled like a beast. Through gaps in the treetops, I glimpsed torn, frantic clouds, as if fleeing some invisible terror. At times, when the wind surged, the entire forest leaned to one side with a mournful groan, and the cold pierced me to the bone, despite our brisk pace and my thick clothing. We were headed to a forester's cabin, where we were to dine and spend the night. I was on a hunting trip. From time to time, my guide lifted his head and muttered, "Terrible weather." Then he began speaking about the people we were going to visit. 2 years ago, the father had killed a poacher, and since then he'd grown withdrawn, as if haunted by some relentless memory. He lived with his 2 married sons. The darkness was impenetrable. I could see neither the path nor the surroundings, and the wind-tossed branches filled the night with a ceaseless roar. At last, I spotted a light, and my companion soon stumbled upon the door. In response, we heard piercing cries from inside, women's voices. Then a man's voice, strained and tense. "Who's there?" My guide gave his name. We entered, and I saw a scene I will never forget. An old man with white hair and a wild look stood in the middle of the kitchen, clutching a loaded rifle, while 2 strapping young men with axes guarded the door. In the dark corners of the room, I made out 2 women kneeling, their faces turned to the wall. We explained who we were. The old man set his rifle against the wall and ordered a room to be prepared for me. But the women didn't move, and he said sharply, "You see, sir, tonight marks 2 years since I killed a man. Last year he came for me, called to me. I expect him again tonight." And he added, with a tone that made me smile despite myself, "That's why we're uneasy this evening." I did my best to reassure him, glad to have arrived on such a night and to witness this superstitious dread. I told a few stories and managed to calm nearly everyone. By the hearth, with her nose buried in her paws, lay a shaggy, half-blind dog. One of those dogs that somehow remind us of people we've known. Outside, the storm raged, battering the walls of the cabin with furious force. Through a narrow pane of glass, something like a hidden peephole set beside the door, I glimpsed, in flashes of lightning, the wind-tossed trees, their branches flung wildly in the gale. I could feel that despite all my efforts, a deep, paralyzing dread still gripped these people. Each time I fell silent, their ears strained toward distant sounds. Wearied by the spectacle of this senseless fear, I was about to ask where I might sleep for the night, when the old forester suddenly leapt from his chair, seized his rifle, and muttered in confusion, "He's here! He's here! I hear him!" The women collapsed again to their knees in the corners, covering their faces with their hands, while the sons once more took hold of their axes. I tried to calm them, but at that moment the dog, until then peacefully asleep by the hearth, awoke. She raised her head, stretched her neck, stared at the fire with her half-blind eyes, and let out that ominous howl which so often sends shivers through travelers crossing fields at dusk. All eyes turned to her. Rising to her feet, she stood motionless, as if beholding something from beyond, and howled toward an unseen, unknown presence, undoubtedly terrifying, for her fur stood on end. The forester, pale as death, whispered, "She senses him. She senses him. She was here when I killed him." The women, now beside themselves, began to wail, echoing the dog's cry. A chill ran down my spine. The sight of that animal, in that place at that hour, among these panic-stricken people, was truly horrifying. The dog howled for a full hour, without moving, howled as if in a trance of despair, and fear, monstrous, irrational fear, crept into my soul. Fear of what? I did not know. Simply fear, nothing more. We sat frozen, deathly pale, waiting for something dreadful to happen, straining our ears, gasping from pounding hearts, flinching at the slightest sound. Then the dog began to pace the room, sniffing the walls, never ceasing her howl. The creature was driving us mad. The peasant, my guide, in a fit of rage and terror, rushed to her, flung open the door to the yard, and hurled her outside. She fell silent at once, and an even heavier silence descended upon us. Suddenly, we all shuddered. Someone was creeping along the wall of the house facing the forest, then passed by the door, as if feeling for it with an uncertain hand. Then came 2 minutes of silence, 2 minutes that nearly drove us insane. Then he returned, again brushing the wall. We heard a faint scratching, like fingernails scraping wood, and then, in the small window, appeared a head, completely white, with eyes burning like those of a wild beast. From its mouth came a vague, plaintive sound. A deafening shot rang out in the kitchen. The old forester had fired. Instantly, both sons rushed to the window, barricading it with a heavy table and dragging a cupboard into place. I swear, at the moment of that shot, so utterly unexpected, I felt such despair in my heart, my soul, my entire being, that I nearly fainted from sheer terror. We remained like that until dawn, unable to move or speak, as if seized by the convulsions of some inexplicable madness. Only when a dim light crept through the crack in the shutter did we dare dismantle the barricade before the door. There, by the wall outside, lay the old dog, her throat pierced by the bullet. She had escaped the yard by digging a hole beneath the fence. The man with the bronze face fell silent, then added, "That night, no danger threatened me. Yet I would rather relive the hours when I faced the most savage peril than that single moment." The shot fired at the bearded face that appeared in the window. Ladies and gentlemen, if this story stirred something in you, subscribe to the channel. Share your impressions and thoughts in the comments below. I'll be glad to talk with you.